Good morning. Today we'll go through the poem The World is Too Much with Us and analyze the poem by William Wordsworth. The world is too much with us, late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. So the poem begins with the term the world, and the reader quickly starts to understand or begins to understand what this term means in this context. He is talking about the worldly cares and concerns such as money, possessions, and power that we enjoy. And he concludes that it is too much with us, or we are too much engrossed in these things, or that we care far too much about these worldly things, that we are so much into these things that we have forgotten the beautiful things of life. He gives more depth of thought to this idea when he suggests that by using our time, mind, and energy while getting and spending means that we lay waste our powers. In other words, people have powers beyond that which they have tapped into, means they have much greater power to enrich this world, but we are busy getting and spending, means we are busy in earning more and more money and spending that money in trivial things. They are tied up in their greed for money. People are tied up in their greed for money, and their time is accounted for by their actions of getting money, spending money, and caring for their possessions. He believes that money and worldly possessions are far more important to people than they should be. So, the poem starts with this: the world is too much with us. So, this term gives us an insight that what would be the poem in the coming lines. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away a sordid boon. In these lines, the speaker contrasts nature with the world. He reveals that while people spend their time in acquiring worldly possessions, the true beauty of this world, of this earth, cannot be owned. Nobody can own the true beauty of this world or this earth. And people are busy acquiring worldly possessions, and nobody is engaging himself in the beauty of nature. So the poet reveals that very few things that people see in nature actually belong to them. He then feels bad about it, or he laments, we have given away our hearts away. Means that he believes that where we should enjoy nature, though it is not ours to own, instead we are filled with greed and acquire wealth and worldly possessions rather than enjoying this beautiful world that God has given us. The speaker then continues by describing the beauties of nature that people are missing out on by being so caught up in the want for money and possessions. So, a sordid boon means such a beautiful gift that God has given us. We are not enjoying that gift and indulge in stupid activities of acquiring more and more wealth. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours and are up gathered now like sleeping flowers. So the speaker here describes the beauties of nature. How the sea is bearing her bosom to the moon. He is describing the sea and the wind and the flowers. So the speaker wants to stress that the beauties of nature are so abundant, and we, the people, are missing out on these beautiful things of nature, the sea, the wind, and the flowers. his description of these parts of nature use personification to help the reader to connect with each description. The sea bares her bosom to the moon, which suggests an intimate relationship between the moon and the sea. The winds howl. Howl is sort of sound. This gives the wind a human emotion. And the flowers sleep. This also shows the parts of nature that have human attributes help the reader to feel themselves connected to nature. Therefore, he paints a picture of nature and allows the reader to understand what he is missing out, and by being caught up in these worldly possessions of wealth and greed. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. So, these lines, the speaker gives a final exclamation that we are out of tune. Means, with whom? With nature. Because we are so caught up in worldly wealth. Out of tune means we are no longer able to get in tune with nature or get in tune with the Mother Earth that has borne us. Here the speaker swears an oath that he would rather be a poor pagan. Pagan is someone who worships nature than be distracted by worldly wealth so as to render himself unable to enjoy the true beauties of life. So he says that I would be rather a nature worshipper than being distracted by the worldly things, worldly wealth, greed, and such stuff, and want to enjoy the beauties of nature. So he therefore appeals to God and even exclaims that he would rather be a nature worshipper than to be out of touch with nature. So he prays God to be so benevolent towards him that he becomes a nature worshipper. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn. So in these final lines, the speaker reveals that if he were a poor nature worshipper, a pagan, he would have had glimpses of nature that would have given him joy and hope, or at least had made him feel less forlorn. Forlorn means lonely. He would rather be poor and helpless and connected with nature than rich and powerful and alienated from it. So in the final two lines, he refers to two pagan gods, that is Proteus and Triton. Proteus was thought to be able to tell the future. He had this quality, or he had this ability to foresee the future, though he avoided doing so. The speaker implies that had he been a pagan, perhaps he could have imagined being in touch with Proteus, or at least catching a glimpse of him as he stares out across the sea. Proteus is sea god. Triton was the pagan god that was said to be able to calm the waves of the sea. So this implies that the speaker looks at the sea, enjoying nature, so much so that he could see Triton and Proteus in the sea. Therefore, the speaker refers to these two pagan gods after he first appeals to God and swears that he would rather be a pagan than alienated from nature. So, we can say that Wordsworth, because he was so close to nature, he wants everyone to come closer to nature and forget about trivial matters of humanly life and go close to nature.